let's talk about brand awareness, why you want it and how you can build it. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Ethan Bridge. I'm host of the Social Media Marketing School podcast and the guy behind the Instagram page at The Marketing Ethan. Brand awareness is something that we're all aware of. We believe we know what it is, but why on earth do we actually want it? Well, brand awareness builds trust with your audience. Trust is everything that we want when it comes to social media and business, because trust leads to sales and trust also leads to loyalty, which leads to repeat sales and more free brand awareness, because these people will actually recommend your product or service to others. So brand awareness sounds pretty good, right? So how on earth do you actually build it? And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. Brand awareness, people will probably think, let's just do paid ads. Let's just do more social media posts. Right. Yes, this is building brand awareness because it is increasing your reach. More people are knowing about your brand. But I don't want to talk about the simple and obvious things today. I want to talk about things that you probably aren't thinking about when it comes to brand awareness that you need to be doing alongside those things, such as consistently posting on social media or doing paid ads or anything else that is increasing the reach of your brand so that more people are aware of you. The key, in my opinion, is to be human. People trust people. So if you can humanize your brand, make it feel as if people are interacting with another human being rather than a logo or a robot, then you are going to be able to build that trust. But when it comes to building brand awareness, when you look below the surface of the consistent social media posts, I'm going to break it down into 4 different categories. And it's those 4 categories that I want you to focus on. So without any further ado, let's just dive straight into category number 1. Category number 1 is relatability. People, when they are looking and consuming your social media content, don't want to just hear about your product or service. That doesn't build that relationship with your audience. People aren't going to want to share and talk about your product or service when that's all you talk about yourselves. A much better thing to do is talk about relatable topics, problems other people may be facing, and then how your product or service can actually solve those problems. It's those problems, those situations, those scenarios that people relate to. So when you talk about these things that people have in common with your brand, that's when that attachment builds. And that attachment that builds is where the trust comes from, because they feel as if they're a part of your brand. They feel as if they understand your brand because they're going through exactly what your brand talks about or the message that your brand is pursuing. So when you make your content relatable, when you make your message relatable, when you make your product or service relatable, that is going to help build that brand awareness, because people want to share content like this. People want to talk about things like this because other people outside of that person that follows you will also be able to relate. When you make your product relatable, when you make your brand relatable, that is when you get that increased exposure, because people are going to talk about you, because people understand you and people want to be a part of that journey that you are going through. So make your content, make your product, make everything you do with your brand relatable, because that builds that trust. That makes people want to share what you do, which consequently means more brand awareness, which means more products or services sold. Category number 2 is interaction with your audience. You're never going to be able to build trust. You're never going to be able to build a relationship with your audience if you don't actually talk to them. So with interaction, I mean a couple of different things. I mean commenting. I mean replying to what they are leaving on your social media page. I mean interacting with them via stories. People often neglect the fact that people want to have an input into the product or service that they are actually buying. When you ask for people's opinions, when you ask them questions about your product or service, when you ask them to decide between two different options, with that option being something that you're going to implement into the product or service you provide, those people that do interact with what you are giving them, they feel as if they are actually a part of what you are building. And when people feel as if they are a part of the product, of the brand, of the service, they're going to be much more likely to buy it because they feel as if they've had an influence upon it. And they're obviously going to want to share it with other people because they can tell their friends, they can tell their business associates, oh, I had an input on this. The brand asked me what I wanted or my opinion, and they took that and actually implemented it into the product or service. So they feel as if they're a part of what you're building rather than just somebody that is buying your product or service. So if you can have that interaction with your audience, it's another great way to build that trust and build that loyalty. So do interact with your audience. Don't just reply to comments and reply to comments only. DM them. Get to know them on a more personal level. Ask them in your stories, in your newsletters, whatever you may do to interact with your audience. Ask them for their honest feedback, what they want to see from your product or service, what they want to add to it. Because when they are a part of the brand, that is where the true loyalty is built. And when that loyalty is built, that's where the repeat sales come from. That's when the free promotion and recommendations come in as well. So interact with our audience, make them feel a part of the brand. Category number 3, you need a story. You need a narrative behind what your product, service, and brand is actually doing. It can't just be, I want to make more money. No one's going to buy into that. Nobody's simply going to buy your product or service because you want to make more money. It needs to have meaning behind it. Because when your product or service does have a message, it does have meaning, people connect to it. It makes it relatable, like I said in point 1. If people are also pursuing that same journey or want to pursue that same journey, they will buy into your brand, they will buy into your product or service and feel as if they're a part of it, and consequently share it, increase your brand awareness. But it also helps develop your content strategy, your business strategy, your journey, what steps you need to take in order to get to that next point. It can mold what you're trying to do and build. So the content you create can always relate back to that message, to that journey that you are following, which helps reinforce the relatability and that journey. Look, people want to be a part of something that's bigger than the product they are buying. They want to be a part of the brand itself. When your customers, when your audience feel as if they are a part of something bigger than the actual product or service you provide, when you bring out a new product, when you release a new service, these people are going to buy it. Let's look at Apple, for example. I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy. When Apple release a new product, I kind of want it every single time. Obviously, I don't buy every single product, but I buy a lot of them. I've got the MacBook, I've got the iPhone, I've got the AirPods, I've got the iPad. But that's because I love Apple as a brand. On paper, these products aren't the best out there. There's a better phone, there's a better laptop, but I buy them because I love the brand itself. The brand is bigger than the product, and therefore every single product Apple release, people will buy it. If they were just the iPhone and had no branding behind that, people wouldn't buy it because it's not the best smartphone on paper on the market. But the fact that they've built a brand that's bigger than the product itself, they've got that messaging, they've got that movement, they've got that overarching goal and brand, people buy any product they release. And they always will if they can keep that brand going. So you can see how having that message, having that bigger brand than the product that they sell makes them so successful, which consequently increases that brand awareness. So think about your message. Think about building a brand that's bigger than the product so that whatever you release, whenever you may be on your journey, people will actually want to buy it. Now, the final category I want to talk about is actually nurturing your audience that you've already attracted. Look, you've done the hard job. Actually getting new people to visit your business, to visit your social channels, to buy your product, that's the hardest part. The customer retention should be the easy bit, but the customer retention is where the true brand awareness actually lies. So nurturing this audience is essential. If you aren't retaining customers, if you aren't retaining a loyal fan base, then you're always just going to have one-time buyers, and one-time buyers won't build a sustainable business. Nurturing that audience, making them those loyal fans, that's when those recommendations come. That's where those organic inbound leads start to come in, because when people rave about your product or service, other people are obviously going to find out about it. And I don't know about you, but I'm much more likely to buy a product or service when it's been recommended to me. If somebody else that I trust, a friend, a family member, tells me about a product or service and tells me that I need it because it's amazing, the likelihood of me going out and buying it is very high. So building those loyal customers that do speak of your product or service like that individual is essential, but that's going to come from actually nurturing that customer. Don't just forget about people as soon as they follow you, as soon as they buy your product or service. You've got to keep that relationship going. Show genuine interest in these people. Like I said, implement all the other things. Ask them to talk about it. Ask them to give their honest opinion, their feedback, potential additions. Get to know them on a personal level. Because when you can retain customers, when you can nurture them, that is where the true, real, organic, valuable brand awareness comes from. So that is why you need brand awareness, and that is exactly what you need to be focusing on to build it. Relatability, actually interacting with your audience, having a story, having a message behind the brand you are building, and then nurturing those that actually already buy from you or follow your brand. Now go out there and start implementing those tips. And that does wrap up today's video. If you did enjoy, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and turned on post notifications. That way you will never miss a video when I post one. But if you did enjoy today's video, I did just want to mention that this is a part of my podcast series, Social Media Marketing School, and the audio version of the podcast is the place to be because I release this content a lot sooner over there than I do here on YouTube. So I'm going to leave some links in the description below. Make sure you head down there and subscribe. But if you've got any questions with regards to anything that I've mentioned, please just reach out to me on Instagram at @themarketingethan. Send me a DM and I'll make sure I get back to you no matter what. But if you have made it to this point in the video, I just want to finish off by saying thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.